I was completely in love with the culture of my mission. I really was. Um, they are just so respectful, such a respectful people. They're just so kind. A lot of times, if you're lost or they see you kind of trying to find out where you're going on your iPad, they would just be willing to help you all the time. Um, they were very to themselves, but in a very respectful way. Very introverted people, but I just love that. I loved them. So one thing, every time you enter a member's home or anyone's home, a Japanese person's home, you take your shoes off because it's very disrespectful to wear your shoes from the outside in. Um, and you always bow when you enter, and then you put on these. They have slippers for you to put on in their homes, and you always have a little Japanese saying when you enter. Um, and to say it's in English, it kind of just means like I'm going to be rude. It's kind of interesting, but you say like I'm going to enter your home, and you bow and you enter their home, and they invite you in, and uh, when you go into their home as well, if you go into the bathroom, they have special bathroom slippers, and you take off your slippers and wear bathroom slippers. So you just kind of roll with it. It's interesting at first. Also, they have a way that you sit at first, usually to be respectful members. Usually, kind of like realize you can't do it very long, so they don't make you. But it's called seiza, and that's where you sit just directly on your knees. You just kind of like you lay your feet back and you just kind of kneel on your right on your knees, and you sit back on your on your legs for like as long as you can, and then sometimes it's like okay, you can relax. But if you go to kendo, which is a sword fighting style in Japan, they we went and watched a member's son's match one time, and you have to sit like that for like an hour or two, and it is like your legs, you just can't do it. It's like you're not used to it, you're not that flexible, and it's so funny. Some elders will bring like pillows and put them like in between the bottom of their legs and it's just like so they can sit better and not have the pain. But it's so funny. That was really interesting. Some do's and don'ts for the culture. I would say, let's see, you don't ever face the bottom of your foot to someone. So when you sit, kind of, especially kind of, we have, the business pose where you bring your knee up and kind of just hold it right there, and your foot's kind of pointing out. That's like, you don't usually want to do that because if the bottom of your foot is pointing to someone, it's kind of disrespectful. So you don't want to do that. I'm trying to think. When they give you food, try to eat all of it. Eat all of the food, but at the same time recognize that if maybe they're not very wealthy or they're not very well off, that though to be polite, they'll ask you, hey, do you want more food? Eat all that you're given, but unless they kind of make you take more, it's polite to say, even if you're hungry sometimes a little bit, just be like, oh no, I'm so good, thank you so much. Because those leftovers could be their dinner, or could be some of the food for the next day. And so sometimes you want to be polite and accept more, but sometimes in some situations you can read it, but just be polite. Like, no, thank you so much. You've already given us so much. Thank you. And sometimes when you show that kindness and the politeness, it really does make an impact, and maybe they'll give you a dessert, or they want to give you more food because you were willing to say thank you so much, but we're good. Let's see. I would say the number one is just always be very, very polite. They don't really understand sarcasm very much. Don't try to be sarcastic with them because they might think you're trying to be rude, or they think you're just American, you don't really understand their culture. Be very polite. When you're on trains, definitely talk to people. Try to talk to people and share the gospel, but do not be super, super loud because they're quiet people, and they like it when they're quiet on trains. And so showing that respect is, I think, very crucial.